Yo, tapping in real quick, something light, nothing major. Peace and blessings and all that. You know what I'm talking about? Hopefully everybody's Thursday has kicked off properly. And you know, your week is going according to plan. You know what I'm talking about? Safe travels to any and everybody who's out there on them roads en route to their folks. You know what I'm talking about? Stay safe out there, man. And depending on where you at, stay warm, man. Suited and booted is absolutely necessary on my side of things. You know what I'm talking about? And, you know, listen, man, we just gonna sit here and chop it up for a few minutes for what it's worth about this fight card, man. It's gonna be kicking off the new year in a few weeks. We have Amanda Ribas versus MacKenzie Dern. It's these two young women's second go at it. And this time, in a 5-round main event, it's fitting to kick off 2025. You know what I mean? As of right now, we have 14 fights to work with. 14 fights that's fitting to take place. And, you know, hopefully, none of that changes. Hopefully, everything remains as is and remains the same. You know what I'm talking about? We going to rock out from right here today. You know, Rocky and Rhea, they laid back. You know what I'm talking about? Zeus, he's down here at my feet right now. You know what I mean? And this is where we at with it. And with that being said, y'all already know this is the first of many times that I'll be tapping in as far as this card is concerned, as well as UFC 311. You know what I mean? And with that being said, I'm going to do my absolute best as not to hold y'all ear hostage for too long, but you already know how that goes, man. Now, I'm not necessarily sure what the lineup's going to be come fight night, but this is the one that I have in front of me. So this is very much so the one we're going to rock with this morning. You know what I'm talking about? Let's go ahead and dive into it, man. Now, as of right now, that first fight of the night, that is women's MMA. You know what I'm talking about? And we do have the most significant favorite on the card. Fatima Klein versus Victoria. Is that Dudikova? Not necessarily. It's Victoria versus Fatima. And Victoria is a plus 550 underdog on the money line as of right now. Fatima Klein is a minus 800 favorite. I said this was going to happen. This is why I posted my early birds, you know, parlays for individuals that was on these favorites. You know what I'm talking about? She was under the minus 500 money line then. She was crept over the minus 500 money line. Now she's a minus 800, and she is the most significant favorite on the card. And this is the trend, yet again, of a prospect that was, you know, opened up as a favorite in her debut against Jasmine. I think the trend might have continued. She might have even closed as a favorite against Jasmine. I'm not necessarily sure how that all took place. I knew she was the favorite. I knew it kind of flip-flopped a little bit, you know what I mean? Went back and forth, you know what I'm talking about, as far as the money line was concerned. But a lot of people were very high on Fatima Klein and thought that she was going to be able to get the job done against Jasmine. You know what I'm talking about? That didn't happen. Now, I'm not going to say she fumbled the bag because she wasn't a significant favorite. She didn't have a significant, you know, price tag next to her name. It wasn't nothing crazy. She was just favored to win. She lost, and now here she is again as a minus 800 favorite, the biggest favorite on the card. And what I mean by continuing the trend, it's like, you know, Robelis to Spain. He lost to Saucer Boy. He got drug out as a big favorite. But then we made him one of the most significant favorites on the card against Austin Lane. Now I'm talking about after fumbling the bag, and he did what? Yet again, he fumbled the bag. He got drug out. You know what I mean? Who else just did? It's been a couple other, you know, it's been quite a few individuals over the year 2024, man. But that was just one. Who else just did it? Somebody else just did it, and I was comparing it to Robelis to Spain while it was happening and taking place. I said, here we go, yet again, placing another significant price tag on a favorite that already fumbled the bag, man, and a prospect at that. But it is what it is. It is what it is. I went off track. We'll leave it alone. It's the first fight of the night. As of right now, it's women's MMA. It's a ridiculous price tag that in no way, shape, form, or fashion, unless Fatima comes out here and just dog walks Victoria and gets her out of there inside. I'm putting a minute of point on here. Like, that's minus 800, man. She better get her out of there inside of 8 minutes, in my personal opinion. That's how we looking at these money lines that they giving these prospects in 2025, man. Fuck all that, man. Justify these price tags, man. You know what I mean? Justify these price tags, man. Or start dealing with these motherfuckers accordingly, man. Get her out of there inside the first 8 minutes if you want to justify that minus 800 coming off a motherfucking loss in your second fight in the UFC. Where, if I'm not mistaken, at least Victoria has some green as far as her wins and losses in the UFC. Like, there's wins and losses. If I'm not mistaken, she has some wins, you know what I'm talking about? And her losses aren't necessarily to be frowned upon. You know what I mean? Fatima, this is her second fight in the UFC. She's 0-1. Granted, it was against Jasmine, and Victoria loses to Jasmine as well. One thing has nothing to do with the other, but it's all worth consideration. Listen, I don't know if she's justifying this price tag. Maybe she does. Maybe she comes out here and she beats the brakes off of Victoria. But that's to be determined, man. You know what I mean? Fatima's the pick. Fatima's been the pick. This minus 800 wasn't what she was sitting next to. It wasn't what was sitting next to her name when I made the pick. That wouldn't have swayed me as far as the pick. I believe she's going to be able to come out here, not justify that price tag. I believe this fight is going to end more so on a, you know, I mean, who knows? Because the way they be throwing these live odds out there be a bit fucking crazy too. But I would say that this thing's going to get tighter through the first and tighter through the second. She's going to remain the favorite throughout the whole fight. She's going to implement her game and be able to, you know, use the wrestling and grappling. In my personal opinion, for what it's worth in this matchup, I feel like she'll be successful in that department. And she'll be able to grind out a decision. But this minus 800 might look like a minus 120 to a minus 114 or a minus 108. It might be a minus 116 to a minus 102 at the end of the fucking fight. And Fatima wins via split decision, man. Like, I'm not sold on this young girl. You know what I mean? There is a lot of individuals that have come from, you know, wrestling and grappling, having wrestling and grappling heavy backgrounds and competing in wrestling and grappling competitions. And it's not like all she ever did was dog walk people in wrestling and grappling, like she just won and never lost over there, man. That's not the situation. I'm not sold on her. You know what I mean? And I've already spent too much time on her. I almost spent 8 minutes on a minus 800 women's MMA matchup between prospects that I don't want anything to do with. Ain't that about a bitch? I apologize, y'all. Zeus done hopped up from around down by my feet, and now he up on the he up in the mix with the rest of us, man. Moving on. This is where shit gets spicy, man. This is where you see on a 14 fight card. I don't have many dogs. I believe I might only have about 3 dogs that I feel are gonna bark and pop off, maybe 4, if I'm not mistaken. But this is one. I don't feel like this fight should be the second fight of the night. Maybe based off of Austin Bashi, you know, being as new as he is. But not Christian Rodriguez. Christian Rodriguez, regardless of who he's fighting, he deserves to be above Jose and Felipe. He deserves to be above Punahele and Euros, Ernesta and Nicoli, Nerolo, or however you say his name, and Yanal. So hopefully they reposition that. Preston and Andreas. Maybe not Santiago and Harris, because Santiago's got a bit more seniority to him. You can make Santiago, Ponzinibbio Santiago, however you say Santiago's name. That shit be tongue twisting me. You know what I'm talking about. But you can make Santiago and Harris cap off the prelims or something. You know what I mean? Because Santiago belongs above everybody that's currently on these prelims. But that's just me. Anyway, Fatima's the pick at minus 800 at 8 minutes and 44 seconds into the video. My bad. You know what I mean? And Austin is currently a minus 218 favorite against Christian Rodriguez, man. And listen, man, Christian Rodriguez is a plus 180 underdog, and I'm all over the underdog in this spot. He's not my most confident picks. He's not going to be locked up in my main parlays and my main bets, but he is locked up in a few of them. He is attached as a dog leg, and I'm not even going the other way, offering Bashi any respect as far as a swap out option. I just won't play that fight on certain tickets, and when I do play that fight, I'll be playing Christian. You know what I'm talking about? Listen, man, I get it. I get it. Austin has looked good. He's looked magnificent at some points as of yet in his undefeated run. But the same could be said about Raul Rosas Jr., who came in there with a heavy wrestling and grappling game and an all-around body of work that he was trying to implement against Christian Rodriguez. He had looked absolutely magnificent up until fighting Christian Rodriguez. Until he didn't. Christian Rodriguez took that O from him and sent him back to the drawing board. But then Raul Rosas has looked absolutely magnificent since then. So this is an undefeated individual who's looked magnificent prior to fighting Christian Rodriguez, and who's looked pretty fucking, pretty fucking good since fighting Christian Rodriguez. Undefeated prior to fighting Christian Rodriguez, and undefeated since fighting Christian Rodriguez. You know what I'm talking about? Was not able to implement that heavy wrestling and grappling game that he likes to implement, much like a Bashi. One thing has nothing to do with the other, but it's all worth consideration, man. Now, Cameron Simone, he did not want to implement that heavy wrestling and grappling. It wouldn't have worked for him anyway, but he didn't choose to go that route. He stood and he tried to just implement an all-around body of work on the feet in the striking department against a Christian Rodriguez, and that did not work out for him. Now, this is a young individual in Cameron Simone who looked fucking vicious at some points, dangerous at some points, magnificent, and very fucking decent at other times in his undefeated run prior to fighting Christian Rodriguez. You understand what I'm saying to you? Since fighting Christian Rodriguez, since he was on the little tear that he was on, looking as good as he looked, they matched him up with Christian Rodriguez, and then turned right around and matched him up with motherfucking Peyton Talbot. Cameron Simone has had hasn't had the easiest route, man. So after losing to Christian Rodriguez, he then again lost to Peyton Talbot. But Austin Bashi probably loses to Peyton Talbot, in my personal opinion. You know what I'm talking about? Regardless of divisions. You know what I mean? Whichever division they fought in, 135, 145, catch weight, it wouldn't matter. I think, Peyton Talbot gets Austin Bashi out of there. But again, one thing has nothing to do with the other, but it's all worth consideration, man. So you got one undefeated individual who was heavy on the wrestling and grappling, and that was Raul Rosas. He looked good prior to fighting Christian, and he's looked good since fighting Christian. You know what I'm talking about? And then Cameron Simone, undefeated until he fought Christian, and then he had to fight Peyton Talbot. So we just gonna leave that one alone. And then there's Isaac Dalgarian, undefeated until he fought Christian, undefeated since fighting Christian. Looked magnificent prior to fighting Christian, has looked magnificent, fairly decent, very good, whatever you want to call it, since fighting Christian. You know what I mean? He was undefeated prior to, undefeated since. He implemented a heavy wrestling, heavy grappling. I think he locked up multiple takedowns, maybe 7, 8, 9 takedowns. You know what I'm talking about? Over the course of 15 minutes. But the body of work that Christian was able to produce on the feet in the striking department outweighed the body of work that Isaac was able to motherfucking produce when he was able to lock up and secure takedowns, because Christian Rodriguez's get-up game was good. You understand what I'm saying to you? And the body of work he produced on the feet was just better than anything that Isaac was able to produce over the course of 15 minutes by locking up his takedowns, regardless of how anybody feels about it. You know what I'm talking about? So it is what it is, man. He's 3-0 against undefeated fighters in the UFC. I've already referred to him as Dana White's prospect killer. You know what I mean? That shit was working until he got faced up with Julian Erosa. The people that he's lost to, the Jonathan Pierce and the Julian Erosa, they're UFC, they've been around for a minute. They're proven, the level of opposition that they are. We know their ceilings inside the UFC. We know how dangerous they've proven they can be at this level of opposition. The same couldn't have been said by Christian Rodriguez at that point, and Julian Erosa proved that. I've been on the right side of Christian Rodriguez, man. If I'm not mistaken, just about every last one of his fucking fights, I said Pierce was going to do him in. I said Erosa was going to do him in. You know what I'm talking about? And stuffing Raul Rosas' takedowns and stuffing the majority of Isaac's takedowns, but still, succumbing to 7, 8, or 9 of them, but being able to still produce the better body of work on the feet in the striking department over the course of 15 minutes while succumbing to 7, 8, or 9 fucking takedowns. Listen, man. Austin Bashi's going to have to go out here and go crazy, man. Now, I know this is a featherweight. Some of them other matches was at motherfucking, bantamweight. And Christian Rodriguez was down there missing weight, you know what I mean? So they brought him up here to featherweight, and they fed him to Julian Erosa, and Julian Erosa made him pay for that missing weight shit. Made him pay for having to come up here to this division, man. And he made everybody else pay that was on the wrong side of him. You know what I'm talking about? We was on the right side of him over here, man. And I think we're going to be on the right side of Christian over here this go-around. You know what I'm talking about? I think this is another that's going to go, and Christian's the guy to take it away from him. You know what I mean? So to be determined. But I like Christian, man. I've seen all that there is to see from Bashi. You know what I'm talking about? And I've seen all that there is to see from Christian. I've seen what there is to see from Christian at a higher level of opposition, in my personal opinion. And although it wasn't a different division, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Maybe Austin Bashi comes out here and he's the one that can implement it and get him down. You know what I'm talking about? And drag him down and toss him around and ragdoll him around and rack up that control time and slow his volume down and just produce the better all-around body of work over the course of 15 minutes by slowing Christian Rodriguez down and just stalling him out. Maybe that's what happens, you know what I mean? That's why there's not a lot of action on this fight, and there won't be any on that prospect. Bashi, this is his UFC debut, ain't it? You know what I mean? You giving yet another undefeated prospect making his UFC debut, coming off the Dana White Contender Series. They're a fight against Christian Rodriguez, man, where he's known to take the O away from these undefeated individuals coming off the Dana White Contender Series and things like that. You know what I'm talking about? But it is what it is, man. It's all just my personal opinion and how I feel about the situation. You know what I'm talking about? Narula, I don't know how you say Narulo name versus Yanal. Now this one was a bit tough for me, man. You know what I mean? Because Yanal can crack. Yanal can fucking crack, man. You know what I'm talking about? He can get cracked, but he can crack. And while I've liked what I've seen from Narulo, however you say old boy's name that's fighting Yanal, I don't know that outside of a finish, which anything can happen, that he's going to justify this current price tag of minus 455. You know what I mean? Minus 455 for old boy and a plus 350 dog tag for Yanal. I'm on old boy to get the job done at minus 455. You know what I'm talking about? I just don't know that he's going to justify that price tag, and it kind of hurt to go against Yanal because I know Yanal can crack. I know Yanal is a dog, and I know at plus 350 that motherfucker's going to fight like one for your money. You know what I'm talking about? So it is what it is. Narulo, you know what I'm talking about. He's the pick, man. You know what I mean? So we got Fatima, who's currently at minus 800. I do have her in an early bird parlay, you know what I mean? But I think I caught her at minus 500 because DraftKings dropped those lines. DraftKings has all of the motherfuckers. They're the only ones that I know of that maybe that shit changed since last night, but they're the only ones that I know of that have every single motherfucking line for every single motherfucking fight for Ribas versus Dern 2 and UFC 311, and they've had them up for a minute now. You know what I'm talking about? So these some of these money lines, if you want to parlay some of these individuals up and parlay some of these UFC 311 individuals up as far as favorites are concerned, man, it is absolutely necessary to do so early bird style. You know what I mean? You got to get them in now, man. You got to get them in now. Worry about your dog plays a little bit later on, a little bit closer to the fight, because them dog tags are only going to get more significantly priced. These favorites are shooting through the roof. You know what I'm talking about? It's all kinds of crazy price tags between this fight card and UFC 311, but more so on UFC 311, man. So it's absolutely necessary if you want action on parlaying and betting some of these favorites to get it done early. You know what I mean? And just cross your fingers that nobody pulls out. Even if they do, that leg is voided, and it's still a payout. You know what I mean? One less fight to stress about. Maybe the universe is looking out for you. Early birds are absolutely necessary, though. And DraftKings is the only one as of right now that has both of these fight cards fully loaded. You know what I mean? Every single fight. All 14 of these and every single fight from UFC 311. Just a little tidbit if anybody wanted to get in on anything early and was fucking with something other than DraftKings, because I don't really fuck with DraftKings. I can't fuck with DraftKings in Delaware, but I got all of those applications, you know what I mean, to see who's talking about what with the money lines, you know what I mean, and they popped first, you know what I'm talking about. So Fatima at minus 800, man. It's Christian Rodriguez as a dog at plus 180 over Bashi. He's gonna have to motherfucking make me a believer, man. You know what I mean? Christian made me a believer. You feel me? I know what level of opposition he's good at competing at. I know where his ceiling is inside the UFC when it comes to this division. You know what I'm talking about? And styles make matchups, man. Styles make matchups. While one motherfucker might can beat another motherfucker, you know what I mean? It just, like, this motherfucker might can beat that motherfucker, right? Then But that motherfucker beat this motherfucker, but this motherfucker beat that motherfucker, and this motherfucker just can't beat this motherfucker, but he can beat that motherfucker who beat this motherfucker. You know what I'm talking about. One thing has nothing to do with the other. Styles make for fucking fights, and they can prove to be problematic. You know what I mean? It is what it is, man. So Fatima at minus 800, Christian Rodriguez at plus 180, and Narulo, or however you say his name, at minus 455, man. Now we on to Santiago, Ponzinibbio, and Carlston Harris. And I like Carlston Harris, man. I like Carlston Harris, man. You know what I mean? For, you know, for a whole bunch of reasons when it comes to this matchup, man. I think Santiago, you know, one thing has nothing to do with the other. It's all worth consideration, though, right? Ponzinibbio's what, like 1-4 in his last 5, with his one win being over, you know, past his prime, best days behind Alex Morono. So he's 1-4 in his last 5, with his one win being over past his prime, best days behind Alex Morono. And he's probably like 1-5 in his last 6, if not 1-6 in his last 7. Like, you know what I mean? He's probably 4-6 in his last 10. Like, it's just, we've seen the best there is to see from Ponzinibbio. And maybe we've seen the best there is to see from a Carlston Harris too. But I think at this stage in both of their careers in 2025, you know what I'm talking about, that Carlston Harris can come out here and get this dub and possibly find his finish inside the distance. You're talking about a man who's what, like 2-4 in the UFC, maybe 2-5, 2-4, something like that. And his only losses come to, you know, Chaos, Kalen Williams, and Shavkat Rakhmonov. Not bad losses, not losses to be frowned upon in any way, shape, form, or fashion as far as this division and this tier and this, you know, this level of opposition is concerned. You know what I'm talking about? Not bad losses at all. Chaos, Kalen Williams, and Shavkat Rakhmonov. You know what I mean? And regardless of how anybody feels, that win over Jeremiah Wells is a good fucking win, because Jeremiah Wells is very solid, very well-rounded. You know what I'm talking about? It's proven that he can be very fucking dangerous. Absolutely anywhere the fight takes place. And, I mean, you know, nothing really jumps off the page, but he's got a relatively respectable resume as far as Carlston Harris is concerned, man. I like him in this matchup. Styles make for fights. And, you know, Harris is currently the slight favorite at minus 122, leaving Ponzinibbio, you know, the slight dog at plus 102. You know what I mean? But I like Harris, man. I like Harris to get this one done. 2 rounds to 1. And possibly find a finish inside the distance if it presents itself. You know what I'm talking about? We'll take it. We will take it. You know what I mean? Jose versus Philippe. Jose Johnson, currently a minus 225 favorite for no good reasoning. You know what I mean? Philippe plus 185 underdog. You know what I mean? I feel like this fight should be a minus 110 pick'em. I get it. Jose Johnson has about 5 fights in the UFC. Where on the other side, Philippe, he has 1. You know what I'm talking about? But you can really miss me. I mean, I get it. He's faced a higher level of opposition, but he also lost to all of them. You know, Asul, Damon, Asul Almabayev, he lost to. Damon Blackshear, he lost to. And Ronnie Lawrence, he lost to. While he beat Chad, and Jack. You know what I'm talking about? And, you know, just two wins that are nothing to call home about. 3 losses that are nothing to frown about. You know what I mean? But those 3 losses are the 3 higher levels of opposition that he faced. And if we're calling Asul Almabayev a higher level of opposition, then we got to call Joshua Van a higher level of opposition. You know what I mean? Because, you know, Philippe's loss comes to Joshua Van. You know what I mean? So I personally would put Joshua Van right there. I would put him above Ronnie Lawrence. And right there with Damon Blackshear and Asul Almabayev as far as levels of opposition. Asu and Joshua are more so prospects. Damon's a little bit more, of both feet in the door as far as the UFC is concerned. You know what I mean? And it is what it is, though, man. It is what it is, man. When you're talking about numbers, stats, statistics, I really don't believe we should be arguing their stats and statistics based off of the, levels of opposition that they've been up against as of yet. I mean, if you want to argue his statistics because of Asu, Damon, and Ronnie, and Joshua, that one fight, then, I mean, we can argue him. He's faced the higher level of opposition, but he's lost to the higher level of opposition. And the same about Philippe. When Philippe took that step up, he lost. He's beaten who he should beat. And then when he took a step up to Joshua Van, he lost. Jose's beaten who he should beat. But when he took a step up to Asu, Damon, and Ronnie, he lost. You understand what I'm saying to you? So it is what it is, man. You know what I mean? I'm taking the shot on the dog. I think the dog can bark. I think the dog can pull this one off. I think the dog can make this one highly competitive, closely contested, and just slightly edge it. I think the dog can possibly find a finish inside the distance. They're both long. They're both lanky. They're both long-limbed. You know what I'm talking about? And they're both relatively close as far as what we have to go off as of yet statistically matched. You know what I mean? So, give me that fucking dog, man. Give me that dog, and, let's keep it moving, man. Andreas versus Preston. Now, for the sake of a pick, I'm rocking with this prospect. They're both prospects, but Preston's one that, he's a bit more close to 2 feet in the door as far as the UFC is concerned, while Andreas is just getting his motherfucking toes wet. You know what I'm talking about? Andreas looks the part. But how many times have we seen individuals come on Dana White Contender Series just tatted up from head to fucking toe, husky and busky, and just look fucking mean and get slept? You know what I mean? All that face fighting don't mean nothing. Huh? You can look as tough as you want, motherfucker. Hold on to this. Oh, you can't hold on to that? Well, take this too and lay down on your back, motherfucker. You know what I mean? So, to be determined. Call it a fade on Preston Parsons. I'm not that high on him. I don't know that he's going to be able to implement that all-around body of work up against somebody like Andreas, who is dangerous, but yet again, dangerous up against the level of opposition he's been dangerous against. You know what I'm talking about? But Preston Parsons hasn't proven to be too fucking dangerous or too fucking solid at this level of opposition either. You know what I'm talking about? So, with that being said, man, I can see Andreas Gustafsson. We got another Gustafsson in the UFC. I can see Andreas, man. Andreas, I don't, the way it's spelt, that's how I'm saying it, man. I can see him catching Preston in close and starching him, just stiffening him up, hammer fists and banging him out after he folds him up like a lawn chair, just bang, 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 and getting him out of there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Preston Parsons comes in here and shows us a 2025 revived version of Preston Parsons that has me on the wrong side of this pick. To be determined. I want no parts of this shit for any betting or parlaying, unless we're talking about all 14 fights, Hail Mary, on the app. I don't want any parts of it from 1 leg to 10. You know what I mean? Keep that fucking thing away from me. You know what I'm talking about? But Andreas is the pick. So we have a Fatima at minus 800. We have a Christian Rodriguez at plus 180. That's that first dog I expect to bark. You know what I mean? Prospect killer. Take another O. That shit gotta go. It's inevitable. You're not gonna run through the UFC undefeated. You know what I'm talking about? So we gonna check your temperature real quick with what we've used in the past successfully 3 times to snuff O's away from undefeated fighters as our prospect killer. Now we gonna try him out against prospects in a new division because he wiped them out 3-0 against undefeated fighters in the bantamweight division. Now we're going to see what it looks like in the featherweight division against undefeated prospects. So it's Fatima at minus 800 and it's Christian at plus 180. Not a whole lot of action on that fight, but there will be some dog plays. It's Narulo at minus 455, if that's how you say his name. And it's Carlston over Ponzinibbio at minus 122. Then you can give me that plus 185, man. Philippe as a dog. because I do expect him to bark and pop the fuck off on his prelim card as well at plus 185. Right after that, plus 180 Christian Rodriguez. You know what I'm talking about? But not a whole lot of action on this fight, man. Just some dog plays, man. Just some legs where I will attach Philippe to some of my most confident picks to boost it through the roof with that plus 185. The same will be done with Joshua. You know what I mean? Andreas at minus 205. The Preston's plus 170. Anybody who's on Preston as a dog at plus 170, I guess you know. I'm not mad at the dog play in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Not at all. Not in one bit. So I wouldn't be mad at that either, man. There's question marks on it, man. He is whether he's the proven, he's the battle tested at this level. You know what I mean? Out of the two. Moving on. Punahele versus Euros. I believe we are going to see all three of my underdog plays on the prelims. Hey, I like that. I like that because we can get these dog plays the fuck out the way. Attach them to some of these prelim parlays. Maybe attach them to a couple, make a couple whole leg parlays out of a main card parlay by attaching a prelim dog leg to that motherfucking parlay. You know what I'm talking about? We gonna cook. We gonna make it shake, man. We gonna make it do what the fuck it do, what it do, what it do, what it do. You know what I'm talking about? I like Punahele, man. Punahele's plus 170 over Uros Mechik. Uros Mechik's 2 losses are inside the UFC, and they're both inside the distance, and they are both via submission. You know what I'm talking about? And it is not outside the realm of possibility for Punahele to come in here and lock up a submission relatively quickly in 2025 for that post-fight bonus of 50 grand to kick off the fucking year. Punahele's going to be a problem at welterweight. This is not middleweight where he had a bad run. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he's going to have a Joaquin Buckley run like when Buckley came down here to welterweight. You know what I mean? Because Buckley was up at middleweight having problems too, getting knocked the fuck out by Kevin Holland. Like shit just wasn't going his way. And then he came down here where he was able to implement his all-around body of work. I said it about Punahele Soriano when we called him as a solid, significant plus underdog. Plus money underdog on that last card he fought on against Miguel Baez, who was a favorite for whatever fucking reason. I guess because Punahele's skid at middleweight was very deceiving. That he wasn't going to be able to implement his wrestling and grappling and his all-around body of work down here at welterweight. Not having to take, not having to take on such big individuals, man. Some of these middleweights could be at light heavyweight. Some of these welterweights could be at middleweight. It's like that for every division. Some of these individuals could go up. You know what I mean? Just like some of them could go down. And going down was a very solid move for Punahele Soriano. He's very solid in the wrestling and grappling departments. He's very solid all around. He's very well-rounded. You know what I'm talking about? He can strike, he can crack. He's fast. He can cut angles. He got good movement, mobility all around. His agility, you know what I mean? The way he can utilize an octagon, cut angles, the foot movement, the head movement. It's all good. He can crack. He's got power. He's got speed. He can wrestle. He can grapple. He's decent in the jiu-jitsu department. You understand what I'm saying to you? And there's a motherfucking recipe to beating Uros Mechik, man. Put that motherfucker where he's uncomfortable. You know what I'm talking about? Take your time, get that position, control it, search for that submission, sink it in, lock it up, and get that boy out of there inside the distance, man. You know what I'm talking about? And listen, Uros can crack. I was on the wrong side of Uros one time fucking with him against Dirty Bird. I thought maybe Dirty Bird, past his prime. Best days behind, but that's my guy. He's fucking dangerous. And I had to roll the dice with him one more time that maybe, he could find that submission. You know what I mean? Much like Jay Lynn and old boy did against him. You know what I'm talking about? And I was wrong. I rolled the dice on that one. I was wrong, but I was rolling the dice. That was a dog play on an OG, UFC veteran, crafty, knows how to get the job done, proven to be dangerous. You know what I mean? Killer be killed, and he's going to go out on his shield for you. And he did. Uros Mechik got him the fuck up out of there, man. You know what I mean? I don't think the same's going to be said about this matchup with Punahele Soriano, though. I think Punahele's going to come out there and be too much for him, man. You know what I mean? He's too strong. He's too physically imposing. And that wrestling and grappling, he's going to get him down. He's going to get him down. And I don't believe he's going to have to get him down over and over again. I don't think he's going to have to rinse and repeat too much. I think he's going to be able to maybe get him down on that first takedown and get that control and get that motherfucking lock up that motherfucking position, put him in a compromisable position, lock it up. You know what I'm talking about? Throw that bodyguard around him and sink in that motherfucking choke, man. I think he can get him up out of there, man. I think he can knock him the fuck out, too. Let's not get it twisted. Punahele can fucking crack. Punahele got fucking speed. It's not outside the realm of possibility for him to crack him with a counter if they're in close, or for him to, just touch him, you know what I mean? The same way Vicente Luque touched Themba Garimba, to get in close and then jump on his submission. You know what I mean? Like Vicente caught him with a short little 6-inch hook. Bop! When they got in close and just dropped him and then hopped on him. You know what I mean? And it's not outside the realm of possibility for fucking a club and sub type situation that happened in this matchup neither. You know what I mean? Now, with all that being said, if Eurosmetric comes out, this motherfucker just 1-2s him down the pipe and stiffens and starts him up, and that's it. It's over tonight. It's a wrap. All of this shit means nothing. But I'm highly confident that Punahele's going to do him dirty, man. Punahele's going to do him dirty. I think Punahele can do whatever the fuck he wants to do with him in there. He just has to stay safe, man. And by staying safe, that means implement that wrestling and grappling and make this motherfucker uncomfortable. You know what I'm talking about? And I think he's going to do it, man. I got faith in Punahele Soriano down here at welterweight. You know what I mean? I do. Very much so. I think he's problematic. I think his all-around body of work and the game that he's able to implement, or the lack thereof, up at middleweight, you know what I'm talking about? I think it's gonna be problematic down here at 170. I think his size, his frame is perfect for down here. I mean, look at him, man. I don't want to compare him to a Buckley, but they both needed to get out of middleweight. Both of their frames were better fit for welterweight, and as we saw in Punahele's first showing, debuting down here at welterweight against Miguel Baez, he's able to implement that all-around body of work. Now, granted, that was against Miguel Baez, and who the fuck is a Miguel Baez? His shit been a roller coaster too, you know what I mean? And more so on the down than the up. But it is what it is, man. One thing has nothing to do with the other. It's all worth consideration, man. Punahele possesses the tool set and the abilities to put this man where he does not like to be, where he is proven to be uncomfortable, and what is proven to be his kryptonite, which is down on the ground, placed in a compromisable position, and then submitted. You know what I'm talking about? It is what it is, man. I believe that's all three of my dog picks. To cap off this prelims is another women's MMA matchup. Question marks all over it. It's a -198 for Ernesta, and there's a +164 for Nicole, or however you say her name, which I wouldn't be mad at. You know what I mean? A +164 dog play on women's MMA at this level of opposition as far as these tiers are concerned. Come on, man. I'm not mad at that in any way, shape, form, or fashion. You know what I'm talking about? Not at all. I tapped in after those weigh-ins and those face-offs, those ceremonial face-offs for that last UFC fight night card, Buckley versus Covington. And what did I say, man? What the fuck did I say? I said both of those female underdogs looked fucking massive. They looked to be problematic, man. They looked dialed the fuck in, man. You understand what I'm saying to you? And more so with Rodriguez, man. I said she just, Knudsen came out there, hair all over the place, looking a little bit depleted. Rodriguez, no, she came out there basically championship weight flexing. I mean, she looked massive. And then when they had the ceremonial weigh-ins, Josephine, she had the hair pulled back. She looked a bit more pulled together, a bit more hydrated. She looked good, you know what I'm talking about? But Rodriguez still looked dialed all the way to fuck in, man. Proceed with extreme caution. That fight was going to be problematic. And then you had Miranda versus motherfucking Jamie Lynn. And Jamie Lynn looked to be massive. And what was going to happen if Miranda wasn't able to implement her wrestling and grappling, the way she wanted to throughout that whole fight, man? Miranda's camp was talking about they felt disrespected, that this Jamie Lynn girl was a nobody. So they was just expecting Miranda. She was just going to go in there and run through her and get her out of there inside the distance and be done with it, find that finish. And come on, man. I said she wasn't going to justify that price tag, and she was in no way, shape, form, or fashion able to implement her game plan the way she wanted to. That motherfucking money line shifted like a motherfucker, didn't it? All through that fight, man. So, when it comes to women's MMA, and, we talking about these dogs, I ain't mad at them in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I like Ernesta in this matchup. Now, I know Nicole's coming off a win, and Ernesta's, knows what it's like to lose in this motherfucker, but it is what it is, man. I'm going to roll the dice on her, you know. I'm going to roll the dice on both of these favorites as far as these females are concerned on the prelims. Knowing that one of them, more times than not, is probably going to fumble the bag. Just like what happened with, you know, Miranda and Josephine. Josephine fumbled the bag. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised if Ernesta fumbled the bag or Fatima fumbled the bag. You understand what I'm saying to you? But it is what it is, man. At this level of opposition, at this tier, as far as these women are concerned, it's going to be a dog fight. You know what I mean? They're going to bang the fuck out. There's 3 female fights on a 14-fight card. So there's 11 male fights that's going to take place, and these motherfuckers are going to go hard too. It's why these women give us so many split decisions, majority decisions, and draws. You know what I'm talking about? Because they go so hard up against a 14-fight card trying to get that post-fight bonus for that. You know what I mean? They got to get the knockout or the submission if they want it for that. You know what I'm talking about? So for the most part, they putting themselves in the running for fight of the night, but don't even find themselves in the running for fight of the night when they should, because they put on some of the most competitive fucking fights. You know what I mean? These chess matches be ridiculous between these women, but that's because they giving it all they got. You know what I mean? So I ain't mad at them. I love these women's fights, women's MMA fights. I'm not in love with betting or parlaying on them. I'm not in love with the money lines. I feel like a lot of them should be pick'ems. But it is what it is. And that's the prelims. We got Fatima over Victoria at a ridiculous -800. We have Christian over Austin at a +180. That is our first dog, man. You know? Take this O, young boy. We have Narulo, however you say his name, at 455, -455 over Yanol. We have Carlston at -122 over Ponzinibbio. We have Philippe, our second underdog, at +185 over Jose. We have Andreas. We rolling the dice on Andreas. Call it a fade on Preston. Call it what you will. But we're rolling the dice on Andreas at -205. We have our third and final dog, all on the prelims card. Punahele Soriano at +170 over Euros. And then we have Ernesta at -198 for what it's worth over Nicoli. On to the main card. I so hope they shift this shit around. There's no way Marco and Ihor should be kicking off the fight. No way they should be kicking off the main card. They should not even be on the main card. You know what I mean? Marco is new. You know what I'm talking about? He's, you know what I mean? Ihor, they're prospects, but Ihor is accumulated to absolutely shit inside the UFC octagon since being here. You know what I'm talking about? He does not belong on the main card. You know, you could kick the main card off with Punahele versus Euros. Or you could kick the main card off with Ponzinibbio versus Harris. Even Austin versus Christian. You know what I mean? Like Austin versus Christian should cap off the prelims, and Ponzinibbio versus motherfucking Harris should kick off the main card, and Marco versus Ihor should be down here where they at. You know what I mean? Seriously, this shit, wow. The same can be said about Magomed versus Bruno, though. You know what I mean? You could take a couple of these off the main card and put them on the prelims, and I hope they fucking do. I hope they do. You know what I mean? But let's talk about it. We on the main card, man. For what it's worth, we rocking with Marco. -455, though. It's, you know, these two relatively new individuals, and Marco and Narulo are at -455. They are the second and third biggest favorites on the card behind the new Fatima Klein. Like, we are giving these prospects price tags that we do not give the GOATs. You understand what I'm saying? We don't. We never have, for the most part, man. You know what I mean? We've seen price tags for Bo Nickel, Mauricio Ruffy, you know what I'm talking about, Kong, Fan, like all types of prospects throughout the year of 2024 have gotten these significantly favored price tags next to their name and fumbled the bag. Like Kong, you know, motherfuckers get knocked out and submitted. You know what I mean? Motherfuckers are getting slept and submitted and beat via unanimous decision, 30-27. But they're minus 1,200, 1,600s, minus thousands, minus 800s, man. Like, we've never even really made John Jones, George St. Pierre, Jose Aldo, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. Like, there is so many greats that we never gave these price tags to, but we're giving them to prospects. Something's fucking wrong with the world today of MMA betting and parlay. You know what I mean? That we're giving prospects that are not battle tested, that are not proven, that have not paid their dues or earned their spot. Price tags that we have not given to individuals that have done all of the above and some. My God. It's ridiculous, man. But with that being said, the ridiculous price tagged individual is the pick. Because Eeyore ain't worth shit. Eeyore is another motherfucker who looked the part, who can fucking crack. He has pop in just about each and every individual shot, and that shit got him to the big show. Not done a whole lot for him since getting him here, but it got him here. And Marco is an individual who is a better, more well-rounded, all those tools are sharper in a tool shed, mixed martial artist. You know what I mean? He's dangerous in every fucking department. And I expect him to get Eeyore out of there inside the distance via KO, TKO, or submission. Club and sub type situation inside the first 5 minutes and not play with this motherfucker in 2025, man. You know what I mean? And push forward. We got, so it's Marco at minus 455 to kick off the main card. Now we got Abdul Razak Al Hassan and Cesar Almeida. And anybody who knows me over here in the doghouse at Fresh Start Mixed Martial Arts already knows who the pick is, man. Cesar Almeida, man. It's Cesar Almeida for me, man. This is one who we did not give that privilege to. He did not have that. Right. And I'm fucking grateful for it. This is one who should have had a significant price tag next to his name coming off the Dana White Contender Series into his UFC debut, and he was a fucking underdog, and I fucking loved it. They made him a fucking underdog against fucking Budka. Dylan Budka. They made this motherfucker underdog against Dylan Budka, man. I remember this fight, man. I remember the MMA guru saying, if this D1 or whatever this credential, I don't know what his exact words were, but he said if this motherfucking wrestler, if this D1, if this whatever level wrestler doesn't come in here and just ragdoll and throw this kickboxer all over the fucking octagon, man, I quit. I'll never make another prediction again. I'm done. I will quit at this shit. Cesar Almeida went in there and got the job done. In no way, shape, form, or fashion should he have ever even been an underdog to a Budka. Man, we was all over him too, man. We was all over him on the money line, parlays, and the prop section. You know what I'm talking about, man? You already know how I feel about Cesar Almeida, man. This is an individual who went to the cards 3 times in a kickboxing ring with Alex Pereira, man. I said it when he was making his UFC debut coming off the Contender Series. I said it when he was on the Contender Series, man. He fought Alex Pereira 3 times in the kickboxing ring. He beat Alex P. He lost it, Alex Pereira 1 time via majority decision. He beat Alex Pereira via unanimous decision, and he lost to Alex Pereira via unanimous decision. But that's 3 kickboxing matches with Alex Pereira that went the distance. One of them that he won, which is way more than what we can say about Israel Adesanya when he was coming into the motherfucking UFC and when he was getting ready to fight Alex Pereira. You understand what I'm saying to you? This is a motherfucker who's battle-tested and dangerous on the fucking feet and who works over there with them, you know, been getting work in over there with them, with Alex. You know what I'm talking about? With Glover. You feel it? With the, I mean, this motherfucker gets work in everywhere. You know what I mean? To just sharpen up that well-roundedness You know what I'm talking about? That sounded crazy. Sharpen up that way. Ah! Get more well-rounded and sharpen up them tools. I said sharpen. Well, I'm about as sharp as a marble with that line, ain't I? Sharpen up as well. Right? Gee, come on, Chris. Ah! Let me light this motherfucker back up, man. I'm halfway there. Got me talking halfway out the side of my motherfucking mouth, man. Sharpen up as well-rounded. God damn. Got to be more careful. Rounding out his game and sharpening up his tools, motherfucker. You don't know what I'm talking about, man. My bad, Zeus. I gotta hop up, man. You getting a bit too energetic out here. I'm trying to chill, man. All right, it's Cesar Almeida, man. The takedown defense is good enough. You know what I mean? Unless, Abdul Al-Raza. I know he got the judo. He got the judo, but he never really uses it. Like, judo, whatever, is his handle. And he just never really uses it. And when he tries to use it, he tries so, for the most part, against individuals he can't implement it up against, man. Like, this is one where Cesar Almeida is going to do the better body of work over the course of 15 minutes on the feet, possibly find a finish inside the distance. He's going to stuff the majority of the incoming takedowns to keep it upright so that he's able to do so. And if Abdul Razak Al Hassan is able to change levels and get Cesar down, he'll get back up. He'll get back up. You know what I'm talking about? And he'll get back to work. The better body of work over the course of 15 minutes, if it goes the distance, will be produced by Cesar Almeida on the feet in the striking department. It will significantly outweigh anything that Abdul's able to do on the feet in the striking department and by trying to implement an all-around body of work. And I would not be surprised if by trying to implement an all-around body of work at this stage of Cesar rounding out his game that Abdul gets reversed, man. Gets, a little trip or something like that. And Almeida tells him to get back up. You know what I mean? But I like Almeida in this matchup, man. I like it. I do. I ain't gonna hold you. We got Magomed. I don't know how to say Magomed's last name. Gadzi. We just gonna call him Gadzi. We got Magomed Gadzi. And Bruno, who don't belong on the main card. You know what I mean? Oh, Almeida is a minus 270. My bad. Almeida's a minus 270. Abdul Razak Al Hassan, he's a plus 220. You know what I mean? So it's a minus 270 with Cesar Almeida as the pick. Magomed Gadzi is a minus 175 to Bruno's plus 145. And listen, I know a lot of individuals are going to want to get behind the Bruno side, and I can dig it. I can absolutely, definitely dig it. You know what I mean? And, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't applying a swap-out option on a couple of parlays as far as this leg is concerned. Bruno lost his UFC debut, right, but he won it. Like, this is that Bruno, right? From that card a few fight cards ago, he won that shit. If I'm not mistaken, like, he won that fight, but he lost it, which was fucked up because he fought for it. As a dog, he was an underdog. He was, fuck was that motherfucker he was fighting, man? Because that motherfucker didn't win. That motherfucker didn't win. He didn't win. He didn't win. Was it a Russian bull on a Russian card or something? Who the fuck was it, man? Check me in the comments. I'm gonna check up on it when I'm done here. But check me in the comments anyway. You know what I mean? Because I'm slipping right now. You gotta catch me real quick. I'm slipping. I can't remember who it was. I think it was the first fight of the fucking night, too. Wasn't it the first fight of the night, man? Like the first fight of the night, if I'm not mistaken. Or the first fight of the night was the women's fight, and that one kind of looked like the women should have won, too, and then they was the third fight. Either way, wherever this fight was placed, it was relatively early on the card, and I believe he fucking won, but he lost. Like, they didn't give it to him on the cards. He lost that shit, but he won that shit, and it was fucked up because he fought for that shit. You know what I mean? That might have been the home invasion I was talking about on the live, when I was live for the fights, and motherfuckers was like, oh, no, that was a robbery. No, that was a home invasion, my man. That was a home invasion. Like, you got your robberies, you know what I'm talking about when it comes to these cards, but that was a home invasion, man. They kicked that motherfucking cage in, that cage gate in, they came up in that motherfucker, and they just snatched that dub away from him. They said, no, the fuck you won't, motherfucker. You catching an L. Word. He lost that fight. Ain't that about a bitch? Yeah, that's him. So I'm not mad at anybody who's on a dog play on Bruno at plus 145 against Magomed at minus 175. Now, Magomed's the pick at minus 175 because I do believe he's going to be able to stay safe and edge old boy out. I do believe that it's fucked up that he's going to lose this matchup, Bruno, and be 0-2 in the UFC because he should lose this matchup, a highly competitive, closely contested matchup to kick off 2025 via split decision. He's going to probably lose this motherfucker. And he's going to be 0-2 in the UFC, but he should be 1-1 in the UFC, coming off a highly competitive, closely contested, decision that he edged it and should have won. He should be 1-0 in the UFC, coming into this matchup where he's going to get slightly edged the other way and lose it and be 1-1. But unfortunately for him, that's not the case. And he's going to be 0-2 in the UFC. And he's going to be looking a bit, he's going to be looking a bit shaky to motherfuckers, coming into his next matchup. But depending on who he's matched up with, I might be all over his price tag in that match. You know what I mean? It's just this one. I think styles make matchups. And that first fight they gave him, that was a good stylistic matchup, man. He did what he needed to do. He fought as an underdog on his debut to, keep his streak intact and all that. And they snatched it from him. You know what I mean? But this matchup is a bit dicey for him, in my personal opinion. And it has more times than not, it's going to go the wrong way. So it'll be a swap out option applied on certain parlays as far as this leg is concerned. But Magomed at minus 175 is going to be the pick. You know what I'm talking about? Thiago versus Trey. T versus T. Thiago versus Trey. It's going to be a good fight. But I honestly think Thiago in 2025 is going to find a finish on Trey and get him out of there inside the distance via submission from a club and sub type situation. Trey don't want to implement that all-around body of work, man. You know what I mean? I think Miles took an L for the marathon team, right, to end 2025 off, and Trey is going to take an L to kick 2025 off. While that squad had a relatively decent fucking year last year, I don't think it's going to go the same this year because now they are at this tier. You understand what I'm saying to you? And this tier is going to be a bit different this year for these individuals that did their thing last year. And that's not just for Trey Ogden, Miles Johnson, the marathon squad. You know what I'm talking about? That's for quite a few of these other individuals and their squads as well. You know what I mean? To be determined, for the nerds. But they're stepping into it in 2025, man. The matchups are becoming undeniable. You know what I mean? That tier that they've entered, the level of opposition that most of them fighting nerds are, fitting to be competing against, top tier, man. Top fucking tier. And we really going to see if they fitting to take over anything, you know what I mean? And then, you got some of these other squads, man, that been doing their thing as far as fight camps are concerned, man. You know what I mean? Them St. Louis boys, for the most part, they did one too last year. You know what I mean? Buckley, Sean Woodson, regardless of how we feel about whether he won or lost that decision in St. Louis to Alex Caceres, they gave him the win. And he had he capped it off with a nice finish inside the distance of the, very respectable money line. We called him at to parlay him up in that -1 area, minus 156 area. You know what I'm talking about? So they did they one too, but, to be determined moving forward because now you're there. You know what I mean? Now it's nowhere to go but up. You know what I mean? It's nowhere to go but face these bangers and these higher levels of opposition. You know what I mean? So it's going to be good, man. This is Trey's welcome. And Cub, as an OG, gave Billy his welcome to that tier and that level of opposition in that division. You know what I'm talking about? Thiago's about to give Trey his. And Thiago's not no OG. He an OG, a vet. He been around. He been in it. But he a young boy, man. Young boy, man. I'm talking about. And still got a long way to go, man. You feel me? Just entering his prime. That's fucking dangerous. Thiago Moises just entering his prime in 2025, man. Huh? And I believe we saw the best of Trey. This past 18 to 24 months, man, it's 18 to 36 months for the marathon squad's been like the best that they're going to get, in my personal opinion, unfortunately, because now you entering a whole new level of opposition. You know what I mean? But I like Thiago, man. I like Thiago. It's crazy that Thiago is one of my most, you know what I mean? If not, he's one of my most, if not my most confident pick on this card at minus 175, considering these, you know, minus 455s and 800s and all this unnecessary shit. But I tend to find my most confident picks more closely lined because I try to stay away from main event, women's MMA, heavyweight MMA. You know what I'm talking about? Individuals making their UFC debut, individuals that are, you know, over the minus 500 money line are just ridiculously priced for absolutely no reasoning at all. You know what I mean? And fights that I have too many question marks on, man, from one side, let alone both. And when I stay away from them unnecessary stressors and I trim all that fat the fuck away, I tend to smack more times than not. You know what I mean? And Thiago's my guy at minus 175 on this card, man. You know what I mean? You're going to get Trey the fuck up out of there. You feel me? He's going to justify one of these minus 455 price tags, in my personal opinion. And one of these 455 guys is going to be like more of a minus 175. You know what I mean? Let's keep it trucking, man. Not a whole lot to say there. Thiago just better than Trey everywhere. You know what I mean? More solid, more well-rounded. Tools are sharper. He's more fucking dangerous everywhere. You know what I mean? So, not a whole lot to talk about, man. Unfortunately for Trey, man, this is not going to be their year. You know what I mean? They marathon ends here. Moving forward, man. Unfortunately for my guy, I would love to be on his side, especially with a plus 210 dog tag. But Kopylov, he does have the formula to beat a Chris Curtis. Because beating the Chris Curtis doesn't come by taking the Chris Curtis down and dragging him around. That takedown defense is legitimate for a reason. It's solid. He's solid. You know what I mean? He's solid. And if you want to just box him, you got a problem. You know what I mean? If you don't know how to maintain that range, play that distance game, and implement a heavy kicking game to keep that motherfucker at bay, disrupt his rhythm, and frustrate the fuck out of him and just start stealing his energy away, but you can steal Chris Curtis's energy away. You know what I mean? Chris Curtis is one of those motherfuckers who you could probably be on a ball court with and just talking right out of his game. You could be on a spades table with him and just talking right out of his game. You know what I'm talking about? Because when things don't go his way and you start to chip away, oh my God, he gets frustrated. He starts cussing and shit. He gets mad. And then it just, the game plans out the window. He starts getting chipped away on a bit easier, a bit more easier, and a bit more often, man. You know what I mean? And then I wouldn't be surprised if Kopylov was able to mix in a fucking takedown once he got him frustrated, you know, later on in the second or into the third round. I don't see him finishing Chris Curtis unless he's able to get him down or hop on his back and, you know, sink in his submission. You know what I mean? These things don't really happen against Chris Curtis. But who's to say he wouldn't be the first to do it? I just think he's going to beat Chris Curtis, man. Maybe 3 rounds, maybe disrespectfully 3 rounds to none, unfortunately. You know what I mean? Just producing the better body of work over the course of 5 minutes every round for 15 minutes. You know what I'm talking about? Just beat him round by round. I think he might 30-27 Chris Curtis, man. I like Kopylov in this matchup. And I'm a Chris Curtis guy, you know what I mean? I fuck with him, man. But, you know, he don't complain as much as a Razak Al-Hassan, but he complains, man. And he can be talked out of his game. He can be punched out and kicked out of his game. You know what I'm talking about? So I like Kopylov, man, to stick to the game plan and frustrate the fuck out of Chris Curtis, man. And for Chris Curtis to show it later on in the fight, especially in the third round. And Al-Hassan too, man. Al-Hassan talked too much. He cried too much. He run his mouth too much. I can't stand that, man, when he opened his fucking mouth, man. Just shut the fuck up and fight. When you used to just fucking fight, you used to be alright. And you started running your fucking mouth all the time. And the more you run your mouth, the worse you fucking lose. Like, bro, just pipe the fuck down. You know what I'm talking about? Main event, man. We got Ribas versus Dern 2. Everything about me when this matchup was first announced wanted to jump all over MacKenzie Dern 2. You know what I mean? And I mean MacKenzie Dern 2. MacKenzie Dern. You know what I mean? In this Ribas versus Dern 2 matchup. You know what I mean? Everything wanted me. Everything just wanted to jump all over in this matchup, man. It's the rematch. Maybe she can get in there and find a way to get it done. You know, I took her, you know what I mean, in that matchup against Loopy where a lot of people were on Loopy and she looked good. She did what she needed to do. She tends to do what she needs to do to get the job done. That didn't go the way in the first matchup with Amanda. And, you know, just upon further investigation, I came to the conclusion that it's just not going to go her way against Amanda. I mean, against Amanda. This go around either, man. Amanda Ribas inside the distance via 4th round finish. You know what I'm talking about? In some way, shape, form, or fashion. Watch it happen, man. You know what I mean? Watch it happen. Ribas inside the distance. 4th round finish. You know what I mean? I think by the 4th round, she will have frustrated Dern enough that she can slip something in when she finds her in a, you know, she can put her in a compromisable position and slip something in via club and sub type of situation. Maybe she just clips and disconnects her, you know what I mean, and rains down on her. But I would love to see Ribas get the submission inside the distance somewhere in that 15 to 20 minutes, you know what I mean? Because I think it can happen, man. I think it can happen, and I think she can do it, you know what I mean? Just like, you know, some of these rivalries just don't end up being rivalries. We just don't end up getting rubber matches, you know what I mean? Some people just get decisioned and then finished inside the distance the second go around, or finished inside the distance and decisioned the second go around. You know what I mean? Or decision both times around. But I think she's going to find a finish inside the distance, man. And I'd like her to do it via submission. I'd love that in the 4th round, somewhere in them 15 to 20 minutes. You know what I'm talking about? So it is what it is, man, for what it was worth. You know what I'm talking about? I'll be back multiple times as far as this card is concerned. You know what I mean? But this is just giving y'all something to tap in and chop it up about, go back and forth about, you know what I mean? And, you know, for what it's worth for the time being. You know what I mean? And that's just, that's how we gonna do that, man. So, on the prelims, we got a Fatima over Victoria at a ridiculous -800. Christian Rodriguez over Austin Bashi at +180 as a dog play to take another O away. 3-0 at taking O's away in the UFC. 4-0 at taking O's away in his career. I'm looking for him to go 4-0 at taking O's away in the UFC, and 5-0 at taking O's away in his career. So it's Christian at +180. Narulo at -455 over Yanal. Harris at -122. I love that money line over Ponzinibbio. We got Philippe at +185 over Jose. Andreas, not in love with that, at -205 over Preston, but it's more so a fade on Preston. We got Puna, 3rd and final dog, +170 over Euros. Put him where he's uncomfortable, man. Implement your all-around body of work, which I know you're capable of doing at welterweight, man. You know what I'm talking about? Drag him out to a decision, find that submission, or pound him out from top position. You know what I mean? But Puna at +170. We rocking with Ernesta for what it's worth at -198 against Nicoli. But maybe Nicoli gets it done. Not mad at the dog play in any way, shape, form, or fashion, especially at this level of opposition on this tier with these women. You know what I mean? But Ernesta's the pick. Off of the prelims, onto the main card. Marco's the pick at -455 over Ehur. Caesar is the pick at -270 over Abdul Razak Al Hassan. We got Magomed at -175 over Bruno. It's going to be a dog fight, man. We got Tiago at -175 as my most confident pick on the card over Trey. We got Kopylov, unfortunately, at -258. You know, possibly destroying Chris Curtis's legs and body. And maybe that motherfucking shin to the chin. Maybe he finds a finish inside the distance or just wobbles and puts him on skates and 10-8s in one of these rounds. But unfortunately, it's Copy Life at minus 258 and it's Ribas at minus 192, man. And Thiago Moises at minus 175 is my most confident pick on the card, man. I also like Carlston Harris at minus 122 and Roman Kopylov at minus 258. You know what I mean? And those three will come together at a fairly decent plus money number. I just don't have that in front of me. Look, I thought I was slick. I thought I was going to look up and be able to tap out right at 110. And I looked up and it was creeping right over that 110 to 110.01. You know what I mean? I fucked that up, didn't I? But that's that with that, man. I appreciate y'all for tapping in for what it's worth. You know what I mean? That's the first card, fitting to kick off 2025. It's Ribas versus Dern 2. It is the second go-around for these two young women, but it is a 5-round main event that I do not expect to go to a decision. You know what I mean? Those are my picks, and that's why I'm rocking with them. I appreciate y'all for tapping in. Peace and blessings. More content to come. Stay tapped in. You already know.